Hey everybody, it's Carm here, coming to you on an absolutely beautiful fall afternoon here on Saturday. In fact, it's starting to get a little warm out actually, but yeah, felt like coming out and doing a video and showing a few more my recent listens. Still on that incredible stack that Jeff sent, vinyl spin. I'll listen to maybe 7 or 8 of them at a time and just come back and report on them. And yeah, I'll start right in with this one here. Bizet Carmen Suite. All I could really say about this, giving it one good listen, is that if you look this up and you hear the first few notes, you know it right away. I mean, I wasn't sure. I'm sure I heard it somewhere before, but yeah, the opening melody, you know it right away. It's, I guess, what could be called iconic, and just for that alone, it's quite enjoyable. And I'll have to look into the music of the composer more and just see. I'm sure there's a great deal of variety there, so yeah, quite enjoyable, and a very nice, really neat cover too. The next one here is similar in a sense that seems like you'd heard it, heard it all over at one time or another. Rimsky-Korsakov. Not quite sure how to pronounce that, but Eugene Ormandy. Yeah, really nice. Another nice orchestral. Another composer that I may or may not have something of and not quite as familiar with. For some reason, this music kind of reminds me of, not exactly sure what period it's from, but it's similar to Beethoven or Mozart, just that kind of grand scale thing, but very pretty enjoyable. I go through different periods with classical music, as I've probably mentioned before. I did the summer video where it seems classical is more seasonal for me, mainly summer and sometimes winter, but I think as I come around different listening cycles, I'll enjoy it even more. So it's pretty nice. And speaking of, we have Beethoven Symphonies number 2 and 4, which I hadn't heard before. Yeah, the 5th, 6th, and 9th symphonies are the ones I'm most familiar with. The 6th being a personal favorite, Pastoral Symphony. And enjoy these quite a bit. It reminded me, for some reason I think of Mozart when I hear this, which I believe Mozart preceded Beethoven. He was the older composer, so maybe there was some influence there. And it just, I don't know, just had that feel to it for some reason. So, yeah, enjoyable, and I think it even said in here that this was the first music where you kind of got a sense of what Beethoven was going through, being kind of, I don't know what you say, like a tortured soul, or you got more of his feeling in the music, which you could hear some of that melancholy there. But yeah, another nice one, and always good to have more Beethoven in the collection. Need to get his string quartets, which I've only heard bits and pieces of. Now for the rest of these, this is very much up my alley, being the electronic fan. Everything you always wanted to hear on the Moog. Some classical interpretations on the Moog synthesizer by Andrew Kasdan and Thomas Z. Shepard. Paul Kondik just showed a Moog record, one of his videos last night, and yeah, just reminded me. And actually, I picked it up recently too, and of course, I can't think of the title right now, but yeah, I always loved what I've heard of Moog synthesizer. At this time, I think this is from, I didn't say a year on here, but I'm thinking late 60s, early 70s. Seemed like a lot of people were kind of getting on that bandwagon with whatever kind of music they were playing, exploring the potential of the instrument. So this is a lot of fun. There's a piece by Bizet on here, actually, from the Carmen, and Lacona, not sure, and Ravel's Bolero takes up the whole of side 2. Very beautiful, but also whimsical, and, even somewhat cheesy, but cheesy more in terms of like the timbres, because it was kind of new at the time, but enjoyable nonetheless, and really striking cover, playful and surrealistic. We have another one here, Walter Carlos, switched on Bach 2. I've had the first one for quite a while on, I think I might even have it on 8-track tape, as well as a couple other formats. Yeah, always enjoyed something about Carlos is very much like Bach himself. The interpretation is very faithful to the original, very extremely detailed, and you take for granted how difficult, studying up a little bit on the Moog, how difficult it was to play and interpret music on that instrument back then. I mean, you had to, you couldn't, it was monophonic, meaning you could only play one note at a time, and you really had to, it was just painstaking. So when you consider that and then listen to this, it's just really, that alone, for that alone, it's very impressive. There's Brandenburg Concerto on here, among other pieces. That particular one is absolutely beautiful, that interpretation. So I would highly recommend this if you're curious about the Moog, and if you love Bach's music as I do. I would highly recommend it. I absolutely love this next one. Electronic hair pieces, Mort Garson. I've gotten into Mort Garson over the last maybe 8 years ago, and very gradually building up my collection, and was thrilled when I found out he made this one too. He's another one who's very faithful in his interpretation, extremely detailed, but also experimentally really explores the potential of the instrument and what it could do. The tones, the various, just the sounds it makes, just really strikes a balance between interpretation and experimentation. And I'll have to do a profile one of these days of him, but this particular album is from the musical Hair from the late 60s, early 70s. Pieces Aquarius, Be In, Where Do I Go, Walking in Space. Yeah, just very, there's a fly in the head, stuck in the album. Yeah, just really enjoyable, and now I want to hear the music from, the original music, and to make the comparison, being that I've only heard a few of the pieces over the years. But yeah, excellent representation of Garson for sure, as everything I've heard is. And this next one is basically the same music, pretty much. Electric Hair. Switched on hits from America's first tribal love rock musical. And this time it's by Robert Byrne. And yeah, fascinating hearing the music, basically the same music by two different interpreters. I'm certainly more biased towards Garson, and I think the music on here it's very good, the interpretation, electronic. It's also backed by bass and drums, it appears. It's probably a little cheesier, for lack of a better word, but still worthwhile. But I mean, if you're looking for an interpretation of the piece, I'd go for the Garson first. But just the cover alone is really it's such a timepiece, but still very enjoyable. This final one here, I'd have to say, is probably my favorite of this particular stack. The Age of Electronicus. Let's see, a Moog, synthesized on the Moog by Dick Hyman. This is just a total gas of a record, just so much fun. It's charming and whimsical, and it has the great detail, and yeah, it's very much like the cover you see there. It just has that it just has that whimsy to it. And there's pieces by the Beatles on here. Obladi, Oblado, Oblada, Blackbird. There's also Aquarius covered here, and Green Onions, kind of a slow, kind of a slow dirgy blues, known as Booker T and the MGs. It played it quite a bit, and just again, just the tones and the textures and the interpretation is so much fun, and just so full of whimsy. I would just highly recommend this if you're curious about the Moog in general, and just it's a good introduction because it's so, for that very reason, because it's so much fun and so playful. And yeah, I just this is one I'll be really listening to, even more so than the others in some ways. Just it's great. It's great if you're down too. It'll perk you right up. So yeah, I highly recommend if you find this at a cheap price somewhere. I know I've seen it before on the racks, but just never quite. I don't know, for some reason never went for it. Maybe it was too pricey. I don't know. So well, thanks to Jeff, I have this now. So yeah, I think I'll do for this stack for now. I'll have a few more to show soon. I've listened to another 7 or 8, and plus Plus I have Trish's mixes, which, Trish, if you're watching, they're always fun. About halfway through the first CD, usually just keep them in the car. And I mentioned Paul Kondik before, someone whose channel I'd really recommend. Shows a great variety of stuff on there. He does blogs, he does cylinder records, like turn of the century, older formats, as well as the electronic stuff. So it's a lot of fun. So I'm having trouble leaving links lately, but I'll try to give you a route to his channel as well as Jeff. So yeah, until next time, hope you're all having a great weekend and enjoying. Hope it's good weather wherever you're at. And until next time, peace, love, and joy. Take care.